Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about debugging. So let's get into it. Now, debugging or debugging code, software, whatever, is a big topic and it's a bit tricky. So I'll give you a case study that hopefully will illustrate my process for solving debugging issues. And this process I'll give you two scenarios where it can work, and it's basically the way that it's worked out the best for me. I find that this is the fastest way for me to figure out what an issue is, at least. So let's get into it. So the other day at work, we had a release basically, and it doesn't really matter what went wrong, but something went horribly wrong. And we had to re-roll the changes to revert back to a previous version and redeploy it so that everything was working. And of course, that now leaves the question, what went wrong? Because although this crisis is averted and all our users are still happily using the application, we still have to figure out what went wrong because we can't ship the new features without figuring that out right. So what then happens is that you start looking for the obvious things. All right, are your logs telling you something that gives you an indicator of what went wrong? In our scenario, we weren't so lucky. If you have a great deal of luck or something of that nature, it's usually the case that the programming issue, it's a programming issue basically. So you have a stack trace, a line number, you have all these great things that will help you. And of course, since you are a professional, you have proper logging, so you know that when something breaks in the production environment, that hey, you are going to be able to follow the execution of the program because you're logging things, aren't you? Hope you are. And in our scenario, nothing went wrong. There were no errors, there was nothing, no line numbers, no nothing. This is the worst sort of programming issue. This is the thing that I try to explain to non-technical people, that there are usually two kinds of bugs. You have programming bugs that are related to a mistake on the software developer side. These usually result in, as I said, a stack trace, something goes wrong, a null pointer exception, something like that. But then you have the other ones, and these are the tricky ones. Programming issues, bugs that are not computational errors, they are just logical errors. There are things that the system is doing that are, from the program's perspective, is doing everything perfectly because, hey, it's not the computer's fault, it's the damn programmer. If a computer is misbehaving, it's usually not the computer's fault. It's the instructions that have been provided that is the issue. Those are the tricky ones, and this was such a case. So the website was down for some reason. We couldn't actually load the web page, and so we started trying to figure it out. We went to, the obvious thing is when you see that it's a 404, we can't find the route that we're looking for, and this was the base route, the route. So the first thing you go and think is, okay, let's go and look at the routes, and you see, hey, everything is there. All the routes are looking perfectly fine. There's nothing really wrong with the routes. So how the hell can't we find the routes? And then some of you are going to think that, maybe it's at the proxy layer, maybe it's at the load balancer layer. There's all kinds of infrastructure stuff of that nature. We had already dismissed all of that, which left, we were 100% sure that it was the server that was the issue, but we could not, for the life of us, understand why it misbehaved. So this is where my debugging strategy comes in. I sat down with my colleagues and I said, all right, let's do a bisection, or do the bisection approach. And my senior colleagues, they kind of they understood when I explained what I meant by that. Basically, the approach that I debug an issue is that, all right, I take one point, in other words, where the issue is existing, and then I go all the way back to a point where I know the issue didn't exist. And then I pick an arbitrary middle point. I pick the middle between these 2 points. Usually this is a commit, because you have a commit history in your Git history with a bunch of saved features and files, and you simply pick an arbitrary number and check. If I check out this piece of code, this version of the code, run it, do I have the issue? Yes or no? If I don't have the issue, I move, or depending on the answer, I move back or I move forward until I find those two magical moment where the first commit does not have the issue and the second commit has introduced the issue. That means I now know which set of changes caused the issue, and now I can start dissecting and go into, okay, these changes, what have they affected? What is the change? That's usually my approach, and this is true for almost even. This doesn't have to just happen at the system level. I do this for basically everything that I do. If I'm ever unsure, even in the execution of a program, this is kind of why I like the functional pipeline mentality, where a sequence of logic is just an array of maps and filters and things of that nature. Because if you put a log statement in the execution of a program before and after, or you use a debugger, and everything is a function that simply returns a value, it's very easy for you to understand that, okay, this is the thing that went in and this is the thing that came out. And that means that you can very quickly understand that, all right, this is the area where the problem is. You don't actually have to know what the problem is, you just need to know where in the code the area is, because when you start out without a stack trace, if you don't have a line number, anything like that, the problem could be, in theory, absolutely anything. So you have to narrow it down, and that's what I want you to take away from this. The best way I've found to quickly solving a bug is to narrow it down as quickly as possible. And the way that I do that the quickest is by simply stating, as I said, I know where the issue exists, and then I go back till a point that I know that it doesn't exist, and then I start slicing with middle points. I just put myself in the middle, check, is the issue here? Okay, yes or no? And then I move and I adjust accordingly so that I can get that magical function that is the issue, or I can get that magical commit of features that is the issue. This is working out very well for me. Hopefully it's going to be useful to you as well. Have a great day.